Simon's an associate professor at the Institute for Russian and Eurasian Studies at Uppsala University in Sweden. Greg, great to have you on. Are these two really laying the groundwork for a new world order, do you think?
It could well be. I mean, I think first and foremost, this is in response to the US geostrategy, which is clearly aimed at containing and weakening individually both Russia and China. And what this is coming together because just Russia or just China by themselves are much weaker than as a united front against the US. I mean, if we look back in history, I mean, this is what the US feared the most, that Russia and China come together, which is why in the 1960s they had these delegations going to keep Russia, I mean, what was the Soviet Union and China separate. And this is no longer the case. But this could be, as some say, a new Yalta of sorts.
It's been said, and I spoke about this 24 hours ago, when she arrived in Moscow, that there's no altruism in China's foreign policy. So what is it going to squeeze out of Russia in return for Xi Jinping literally standing next to Vladimir Putin and showing, I support you?
Well, I think once again, I mean, this comes to the point that what the US is doing to Russia, I mean, it is also starting to do to China. We can see these constant policies, these geostrategies, whether it be Obama's Asia pivot or the AUKUS under Trump, or the Quad Biden, these presidents are all going after China to contain it. So I don't think it's as unequal and uneven as it makes out, because I mean, you've got two very large and powerful continental powers which are facing off against the Western powers, which are primarily naval and air powers. So, I mean, you've got these different strategies. I mean, so this is what it'll be about, how to devise a common strategy to evade this US-led strategy.
And in terms of how the war in Ukraine affects the positions that Xi Jinping, Joe Biden, and Vladimir Putin are taking, I mean, clearly it suits the Chinese for the Western backers of Kiev to be stretched as much as possible by the war. At the same time, of course, Russia is suffering. So does that mean with both the suffering on the Western side and the Russian side, it puts China in an even stronger position? Because at the end of the day, Greg, I think most people agree that China does not want a behemoth of a Russia. It would prefer Russia to be a little bit more subjugated.
Well, I mean, if we look at this, I mean, what the US and its allies did to Russia, if we look at before the 24th of February last year, I mean, their information strategy, because primarily, I mean, before the war begins, you have these information wars, these political wars. I mean, that is almost identical to what they're employing against China with regards to Taiwan. So China can see, because, I mean, unlike many Western countries, they take the longer perspective. So I think China definitely does not want to see a weakened Russia, because a weakened Russia would be one that presents China with potential security problems. And so in this case, I mean, it's moral support, you got economic support. So, I mean, this is what I see it as, because they can see if Russia is subjugated by the West, then China is in a much weaker position. So it's in China's long-term interests to ensure Russia's survival.
Really interesting and very, very delicate, quite clearly. Greg, thank you so much indeed. Really appreciate it. Greg Simons in Uppsala.